Hello, my name is Richard Claywell, and this is Litigation Speaks. Today I want to talk to you about the misapplication of using the long-term sustainable growth when you do a capitalization rate. But first, what I want to do is talk to you about the podcast that we did last week. We had numerous responses to that, and I appreciate those responses. So I would ask that you keep sending responses to us. Let us know what you think about the topics, and hopefully it'll raise some conversation within the valuation community. The topics that I select are not necessarily my topics. What I'm doing is I'm looking at valuation reports that I've received from other experts. I go through them. We typically will do a rebuttal report, and these are things that I'm seeing in the real world where people are actually doing this. Now, saying that, I'm not picking on any particular group for this. I have actually found these types of errors, and the ones we've done so far, have been done by certified valuation analysts, people that have the accredited business valuation designation, accredited senior appraisers, which is surprising, and the master certified business appraiser, which is really surprising. That's where these errors are coming from. So again, these are not things that I'm sitting here trying to make up. These are things that are pretty easy to do. My problem is I've got so many of them, it takes me a while to figure out what I want to do each week. But I want to talk to you about the long-term sustainable growth. When you do a capitalization rate, and the capitalization rate applies to a single period, you have a discount rate that's applied to multiple periods. When you have the single period, what you're supposed to do is determine your discount rate. Then you subtract your long-term sustainable growth from that. The problem with it is, I had a report where it said less long-term sustainable growth, and that was to be subtracted from the discount rate. Unfortunately, it was added instead of being subtracted. I can't say that's a common error because I don't see that very often at all, but it happens on occasion. So what that really does is it increases the capitalization rate that you have. When you look at what we do with these discounts and capitalization rates, the higher that rate, the lower the value of the company. The lower that rate, the higher the value of the company. So what this expert did by adding that rate, they've actually lowered the value of the company. And I've got, if you have a printed copy of this, if you look on my website, you can get one. There's Exhibit 1, and I just use $1 million. Why did I use $1 million? It's a good even round number, so there's no rhyme or reason really for that. But I use $1 million, and we capitalize that, and the discount rate that they used was 32%. Less the long-term sustainable growth is 2.5%. They get 34.5% for the capitalization rate. Now, this should have been subtracted instead of added. So in the example that I've got, they come up with the value of $2,898,551. Not necessarily picking on any particular group, but if I'm thinking about attorneys, your eyes are not trained to look for these sorts of things. So when you look at what this expert has done, we've got a lot of numbers that are out there. It's got to be right. And you look at this and it goes over your head. So you just don't pick up on that sort of thing for most people. What they should have done is they should have subtracted that growth rate from the discount rate. If you take your 32%, if you look on Exhibit 2, and then you subtract the 2.5%, you get a capitalization rate of 29.5%. That gets a value of $3,389,831. So by adding that long-term sustainable growth, you will always, I said again, you will always undervalue a company. So it's really critical that you kind of understand what's going on with this thing. The difference between adding and subtracting this 2.5%, small percentage, who really cares, on $1 million company is $491,280. So that's quite an error that's in there. So this is what winds up happening when you add your long-term sustainable growth versus subtracting long-term sustainable growth. Why should attorneys care about this? It's not that big a deal. Well, it is a big deal because for a $1 million company, it's $491,000. The report that you get is incorrect. If you get the report where somebody has added that rate, it's going to lower the value $491,000. For the sake of argument, let's say $500,000. So when you start your negotiations to get a case settled, you're already behind the 8 ball. You're $491,000 lower than you should be. So now if you have to come down, that is really to the detriment of your client. And then the question becomes, what happens later on if the client finds out there was an error in there, you didn't pick up on it, and you started negotiating from a lower value than you should have, and the client actually settled on an offer that was substantially lower than it probably should have been. What we can deliver for you is to review these reports, see if they withstand scrutiny or not. If you have any questions or comments on the information we presented today, you can either give me a call or send me an email, and we can discuss that. I appreciate your time, and hopefully this will be helpful information for you. Thank you very much.